Hello, everyone, and welcome back to video 2, practice 2 in the series, Finding Your Inner Peace, Even in the Chaos. And if you're just making your way to this video because you love the topic, that is great as well. However, if you want to go through kind of like the entire arc of the experience and the different practices we're teaching, I would recommend going back to video 1 and watching Circles of Influence if you have not yet caught that one. But other than that, we're going to jump right in. Today's practice is called grounding in nature. And having a connection to nature and really just developing a connection to nature has really been one of the greatest gifts, I'd say, of the last 5 years of my life in particular. One of the greatest gifts for my kids and one of the greatest gifts for my family. And so today's practice is all about getting into nature and using it as one of the most effective tools to really ground the body, ground the nervous system, and really create a fast shift in your physiological system. And so not only is this called grounding to nature, but it's also really just a ground level kind of base practice for all those different reasons that I just mentioned. And I, am kind of an explorer when it comes to all these different techniques. I've just, whether it's breath work or different types or practices of meditation or working with different kind of meditation teachers or gurus or monks or shamans or whatever it is over the years, one of the most common elements I would say across a lot of the people that I've met that are really living in this higher state of consciousness, have let go of the mind thoughts and just are really kind of become creators of their lives, is hands down every single one of them has developed and cultivated a connection to nature. And it makes sense because it's really kind of an inevitable part of our human journey and our human expansion because we are nature, we are connected to nature. And so this practice is not only kind of a base or grand level way to really release energy in the body, ground the nervous system, and do all those things. It also acts as kind of a portal into awakening, and you can really kind of go deep with this, even though we're kind of be sticking at some, just really quick and base level practices to create shifts in your lives today. And as I mentioned, you can think about nature and kind of going out in nature and grounding in nature as really kind of this nervous system reset. It's this really great way for you to take your body out of a sympathetic, or what I like to call stress state, and switch into a parasympathetic, or what I like to call peace state. So a lot of us are walking around these days kind of even unconsciously in this sympathetic state. Our bodies were built to be able to quickly respond to triggers and danger and survival and all those types of things evolutionarily. But what's happened is a lot of us now have gotten kind of stuck in that state for things that are even kind of out of our sphere of influence, as we talked about yesterday. So this practice is really helping us kind of get back to that parasympathetic state, get back to a place of peace, and just really create kind of quick shifts in the body. And the reason that nature is so effective of this, you could absolutely do some of these practices inside, or any other type of kind of nervous system regulation or grounding practice inside. At the end of the day, we are energetic beings. We are literally 99.9% space. And so if you think of it in that context, stepping outside into kind of the electromagnetic field of Earth, or just, all of the different sensory experiences that nature provides, it just gives you this opportunity to enter into kind of just a different field of energy that allows your body to kind of quickly be able to make those shifts. And nature really provides, I'd say, two things. Is one, when you step outside and you're really, really aware of your surroundings, there's kind of this sense of awe and wonder that is just inevitable, right? Even when you're just standing in the backyard, if you're open to it and in awareness, when you're looking at the trees. And the other aspect of nature that, is really kind of provided to us too, is that nature just provides this wonderful landscape for creating these metaphors in our life. So what I mean by that, and one of our practices will be directly related to it, is that you can look up at the clouds in the sky and see how they're passing through and use that as a metaphor and analogy for our thoughts, right? There's so many different metaphors or lessons or teachings that we can look at to nature to just see its innate intelligence and how it naturally moves and evolves and shifts through seasons and different periods. And when one flower or plant dies, it's decomposed into earth, and then something else grows from it, right? And so there's just all these amazing analogies in nature that we can use in our life. And the other just kind of, I think, interesting thing here to just mention, I guess noted at the beginning that a lot of the just most amazing souls that I've worked with over the last couple of years and all the various retreats and meditation experiences and just consciousness kind of expansion practices that I've done they all kind of have this common connection to nature. One of the things that I actually talk to a lot of the entrepreneurs and kind of executives that I work with about too, and even we might even create a kid series on in the future, is that if you look at a lot of the like leaders and innovators and the people that are really just like pushing the envelope in the world, each of them had a connection to nature as well. One of my absolute favorite stories for that is Einstein. But if you look at like Jobs and some of his different quotes and writings and things like that, or Tesla, or I could list off a whole bunch, but Einstein's kind of this really interesting case. And I won't get into the story here. If you're interested in hearing a little bit more about Einstein's connection to nature and how he actually used it to have some of his greatest breakthroughs and discoveries, I believe I talked about it probably last in the 1,000 Hours Outside podcast, which I'll link to this. But essentially what Einstein would do, like the 20-second version, is that when he was kind of stuck on a problem or overwhelmed in his life or something like that, he would actually go on these long like sea trips out to sea. But when he was even at the campus at Princeton, he would go to the university woods and he would just literally pick an element in nature, and even just like the soil, and he would look at a square yard of dirt and he would look at it so closely, just at the life, and just trying to comprehend like how all these microorganisms and like the soil and everything could even exist, until his mind became so overwhelmed by like the magic and the complexity and the just innate intelligence of nature that he would just kind of like head into this like other state of consciousness. And the story kind of goes is that it was from that space that he was actually able to have like some of the greatest discoveries and breakthroughs and things like that. So there's a lot of different ways that you can apply these practices. We're really talking about them here in the context like of this topic, is really kind of grounding and really focusing on the body. But I just want to mention that as a note, like for others out there that really want to kind of like expand deeper into these practices, there's really a lot of cool ways that you can use nature in your mindfulness practice or contemplative practices in general. And you probably, heard about this a lot lately too, right? Because there's even more and more kind of research just showing like specifically what nature does to the body. I know there was a lot of articles probably a couple years ago that were talking about like forest bathing in, Japan, and, that just kind of being a practice. And then there's just a lot of, research studies that have been done. And kind of the most specific thing I feel like that has kind of been shown from the research is that just the kind of just quick and immediate drop in cortisol that can occur in nature just from being outside on like a 10-minute walk, or just for spending like 20 minutes in the outdoors, is like highly significant. And I don't know that there's any other modality that has actually shown, that quick of a drop in such a short amount of time. So if you're thinking about like the context of this topic and like stress and all these things going on, and you're really wanting to create like a quick physiological shift, just going outside in nature is going to be one of the most effective ways for you to do that. And I think the other thing related to that the research has shown too is just its ability to really kind of drop you into that parasympathetic state that I was mentioning before, and kind of getting your body in that like rest and digest process. So like no matter what's kind of going on in the external world, like whether globally the world or in your own life, your body can kind of just have this chance to like relax. So then you're able to kind of start go into this like process. And the other thing I just wanted to mention real quick before I get into the 3 practices that I'm going to share with you guys today is that, I sometimes I work with people and I kind of mention like, oh, are you ever outside in nature? Do you ever go on a walk, or like any of those types of things? I'll kind of get the response, well, I'm not really an outdoors person. I'm not really a nature person. And so anyone that kind of has that reaction as introducing this concept or, whatever it is, I would just kind of invite you to just look at that a little bit more closely. I had a client that actually said something similar to that, and they just really had not had any experience like being out in nature. They kind of grew up in the city, had a very fast-paced life. Their parents were working all the time. Just nature wasn't a big part of their upbringing. But once they kind of started stepping out and being in nature and going on walks, they're like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I haven't been using this as a tool in my life. Like my whole life has shifted literally by just doing these walks outside every day, and kind of tapping into the broader like expanse of the awe and everything that nature offers. So just give it a go, even if you say you're not a nature outdoor person, or even if you're outside a lot but you've not really gone into nature with an intention, because it's a different experience. Like you might be outside watching your kids play, or just like sitting outside, having a drink, or like whatever it is, but you're not truly out in nature with the intention of connecting to it and tapping like into the field of everything that nature can offer. So the kind of broader message there is just that we really need to a lot of times slow down in our lives to really kind of notice what's going on outside and to just kind of engage in this highly accessible and free resource that surrounds us at all times. And I can guarantee you that even just like a few minutes, like with the intentions that we're going to kind of talk about today, that you will be able to improve your mood, your health, kind of in just really your immediate situation. So I'm going to go through 3 kind of just like quick practices that you guys can do. As I mentioned in the first video, I want all these practices to just be highly effective, high impact, but also just really easy for you guys to integrate into your lives. So the first practice you can probably do in less than a minute. And then the next 2 practices, I mean, really less than 5 minutes. So these are super easy to kind of work into your day. And as I mentioned before, you don't have to go outside for these practices, but it's just going to give you another kind of like just opening another level of, being able to kind of quickly make those shifts for those reasons that I kind of talked about, just being in the field, the electromagnetic field, connecting to the earth, all those types of things. You'll just be able to quickly make shifts. So the first one that I want to share with you guys is super simple. You can literally do it in a minute or less. And all you need is a square patch of dirt. So the idea for this one is you're just going to go outside. You could live in the city. You could, in your backyard. It could be somewhere else, that you really love out in nature. You're going to go outside. You're going to take off your shoes. And as the title of this class, suggests, you're going to actually ground to the earth. So take off your shoes. You're going to connect to the dirt, connect to the grass, whatever it is, and just kind of stand. You're just going to stand there in a straight position. You can close your eyes, or kind of what I like to call like a 1/10 gaze, where you have your eyelids open. You're kind of like being aware of your surroundings to some extent. People can feel more comfortable doing that. And you're just going to kind of stand there, and you're going to just work on relaxing your body, taking a couple deep breaths, and just really connect to the earth. And within a few moments, within a few minutes, you're just going to start to feel a shift. It's just inevitable. And then kind of the second layer of this practice that you can do if you have a lot kind of going on in your life, either in the external world or in, something kind of a particular situation that's kind of been really coming up for you lately, is you can take any thoughts, any worries, any concerns, related to that topic. And you can kind of do this practice where you imagine that there are roots that are going down from the bottoms of your feet, and they're traveling all the way through the earth into the center of the earth and kind of just like the core of the earth. So you're imagining these roots from the base of your feet that go all the way down to the core of the earth. And then you're taking the situation with any thoughts, worries, and concerns, and you can do it just as like a one intentional kind of like drop of energy, or you can do it as, perhaps a little bit more effective is to actually take each one individually. So like take the thought, take the worry, and send them each individually kind of down through the roots into the center of the earth, and knowing that they will kind of be like decomposed or dissipated like through that process. So that's just a really, really simple practice you can do when we talk about like just creating that like quick physiological shift, like literally outside 1 minute. Like if you're a busy parent or a mom or whatever it is, that can also be a really great practice. You're outside with your kids and they're playing, just like take that minute, and it can just create like this total like reshift of your experience. So that's the first one. And then the second one is, I don't know, probably one of my absolute favorite practices to do, and one of the ones I've actually, taught my kids. But this one's specifically about connecting to the innate intelligence and just kind of like the magic of trees. And if this isn't a topic that you're familiar with, it's something that I have just kind of like deeply been interested in. I kind of maybe mentioned in my first video, and if you've worked with me before, I am deeply interested in quantum physics and applying a lot of the lessons from quantum physics and the contemplative practices together. But one of the other areas that I'm just like completely fascinated with is trees. And I'll share a couple of links in the notes, but there's actually, I have it here. There's a book for kids called, let's see if you see it, Can You Hear the Trees Talking? And there's actually an adult version of this as well. So if you listen to this practice and you're just like, oh wow, this is really fascinating, or you just really enjoy it, that can be a neat book to kind of tap into. And there's a couple other ones as well. But this practice we're going to do is I want you guys to actually go outside, and the only kind of tool that you need for this is a tree. And ideally, it can be any tree. It could be a thinner tree. Ideally, it would be a tree that is thick enough that it can support your back. Because in this practice, what you're going to do is you're actually going to go outside, and you're going to sit down on the ground, and you're going to literally just put your back to the tree. And ideally, like you would have your spine straight if you can, kind of in a regular meditation position. And you're just going to literally sit there and take a couple breaths and just relax your body and just using the tree as a system of support. And as I was talking before about how nature can just be this amazing source of kind of these metaphors about life, that's how I kind of want you to bring this like intention of all the lessons of the trees, like all of the innate intelligence of trees, like into your body to kind of help you move through any situation that you're working on in life. So just to be a little bit more specific there, I mean, trees really symbolize wisdom and stability, and they symbolize shelter, and they symbolize growth and renewal. And trees kind of just set this like beautiful example of gracefully weathering the seasons, you know, of our lives, including like times of high winds or heavy rain or freezes or extreme heat and drought, right? It's like the seasonal shifts that like trees go through, or like being able to withstand like a hurricane, like just like their roots being so deeply grounded, but their branches swaying. Trees really provide this just like amazing metaphor for us to be able to tune into and just also ground ourselves. And I actually have a card. I don't know if some of you may be from the Infinite Kids in Nature, Infinite Kids community, and we have a set of cards in there called Infinite Kids in Nature. And I actually have a specific practice called a deeply rooted tree, which is a similar one that I've tailored for kids, which is kind of similar to this practice. But the whole idea is that we can kind of create this symbiotic relationship with trees by understanding that, just think about it, like oxygen and carbon dioxide coming in and out. Like we really truly are in a symbiotic relationship with trees, and we can use them just as this really amazing tool in our lives. And so this whole practice is about using the lesson of the tree. So you're sitting here, you have your back to your tree, you're relaxing your body, and then you're just kind of bringing in this intention of taking the wisdom of the tree, right? Which is this idea of that trees are so deeply rooted and grounded to the earth. I mean, they literally talk to each other, through their roots and the mycelial networks. And so they're just so deeply grounded. But at the same time, if you think about their trunks and their branches, they're also incredibly flexible, right? The wind comes through, storms come through, the seasons change and the leaves fall. There's like a level of just like deep resilience in a tree. And so if you can kind of just like take that metaphor from the tree and just bring it into your own body, it can just be like a wonderful grounding practice. I am deeply grounded. I'm rooted here in this situation. I can handle any storm that comes, but at the same time, I'm also flexible and I'm ready to move and bend like as I need to. And that's just an amazing metaphor, right? To be able to carry into life. And so not only are you going outside, you're kind of getting that, experience from just sitting down on the ground and grounding your body and all the, biochemical and physiological shifts that will occur from that. But then you're actually like taking in what is like, we're kind of calling the energy of the tree, the intention behind trees, and bringing that into your body and just kind of going through the process of holding that intention within yourself to be able to kind of shift whatever experience you might be grappling with or, might be overwhelming you at the moment. So that is practice number 2. And then the third practice that I want you guys to try that is also kind of related to nature is related to the night sky. So the first two, obviously, you can do any time of day. This last one would have to be at night. And I wanted to share this one in particular. I think it came through because just over the last week of the recording of this, there's been a lot of just images circulating from NASA. The Webb telescope images just came out. And so I think most people have probably seen them at this point because it's just kind of been all over the place. But if you haven't, go and just Google it real quick and take a look. But the Webb telescope has just provided us kind of this like deepest look into the universe. And so I'd be curious, share in the comments or something like that. But it's really difficult to not look at those pictures and just be like, wow, it's just kind of this mind-blowing experience if you really truly look at them, like all the different kind of galaxies and distant worlds and other stars. And it just really makes you just sit and kind of probe this like mysterious like structures of our universe or what the origins of our universe are. And so kind of like keeping that in mind, one of the practices that actually I've adapted this one for kids as well, but one of the other practices that you can do is just go outside at night. It doesn't even have to be, necessarily a night where there's a lot of stars, there can be clouds in the sky. Just going out at night, and it can just be simply being like sitting outside on your porch or just on your deck, or you can even grab a blanket and just like really do the full experience and just like stare up at the stars. Or right now I'm recording this in the summer, so it's great weather to be able to go outside and do that. But if you find yourself listening to this in the winter, you can absolutely do it from your house, just like looking out the window as well. And so you're just going to go outside, and just like a similar process that we've done with the other two practices is you're going to take a couple deep breaths. It's going to really try to relax your body. And the key here with this one is you're really going to want to practice just letting go of your thoughts. And as you let go of your thoughts, you're just going to stare at the sky. And again, it's just going to be this inevitable process if you're open and you're willing to bring in this awareness that you're going to feel your body relax, and you're going to start to kind of go into the state of just looking at like, wow, like I'm literally stardust here having this experience on earth, and all of your problems, all of your worries and your concerns just inevitably become a little bit smaller when you kind of put yourself into that environment. And so it just kind of gives you this opportunity to hold a different perspective, perhaps on an issue that you have, or, just really helping you to actually just like ground to the broader perspective of like everything that's going on. So that's another really kind of like great practice that you can do. And I actually have a recorded meditation I think it's only about 7 or 8 minutes long, that I'll link here, that actually takes you through, I'm forgetting the exact title of it right now, but I think it's connecting to the night sky or something like that. And it'll actually take you through more specifically this process that I'm kind of talking about. So if you kind of like a more like guided version of this practice, you can just kind of click on that meditation and give it a try at some point. So that's it, guys. Those are the 3 practices. I'll just kind of quickly recap them. But the first one is just going out, finding your square yard of dirt, similar to Einstein did. Take off your shoes, ground to the earth, take in all the, electromagnetic properties of Gaia, send anything down on the roots to this core of the earth, and just allow your body to have that like quick downshift in cortisol, switch into the parasympathetic nervous system, and just use that as like a really quick tool whenever you need it. The second one was kind of looking out in nature, trying to look for some of those metaphors or analogies. Like if you're aware, you can find them. Trees being the example that I used here today, grounding kind of to the tree, putting your back to it and thinking about how you can be grounded, but also hold that resilience with flexibility at the same time. And if trees aren't kind of your thing, like they are for me, you can pick another element in nature, right? It could be the ocean. You might be like, maybe you live near the ocean, or even just listening to ocean music, right? Allows you kind of tap into it. If you have a really like deep connection to water, I'm always down at the river or stream here as well. That's kind of like my other thing, is the river. And watching, I actually talk about this in the kids set, but you can use the river as an analogy, and the rocks, right, in the river, as how we can flow through anything in our path, right, through the least path of resistance. So that's kind of a great metaphor for the river. And if you need any more ideas, you can check out our Infinite Kids in Nature set for sure. We have lots of adults that have said it has been just as impactful for them, if not more, than their kids, as they've kind of engaged with them. And then the last practice I had just mentioned was actually doing this at night, taking in the night sky, looking at the expanse of the universe, remembering that we are simply stardust here having a human experience, and just kind of seeing if you can take a broader perspective on some of the things that are going on in your life. So those are the 3 practices. Just a reminder, nature is free. It is highly accessible. It is right outside your door. I think it is the most effective, quickest way to create shifts in the body. So give it a go, even if it's something you haven't really connected with or tried in the future. And just as a last, I guess, point too, as all these practices I shared today, I have taught my kids as well. So if you have kids, try these out yourself, but you can also teach these to your kids as well, because what a gift to actually learn this. I could go on for this, obviously, for a while, but what a gift to be able to teach these practices to your kids. And kids are just innately connected to nature. They haven't lost that connection yet. So just getting them outside and actually teaching them these practices, they'll be able to carry them for life. So thank you guys for being here. I hope you give all these practices a go. And then tomorrow we'll be back with a different practice that kind of addresses, a different piece of this equation. And I look forward to seeing you guys then.